here in a minute. Little history on the youth scholarship program. It was designed because the average member in our association at the time going to B school was 55. And it was something that the board back then had the insight to realize that we needed to have a younger generation involved. And so they designed a youth scholarship program just to draw in some younger people into our association. And so I take and credit Cheryl Watts-Smith for the youth scholarship program because she was the president of Central Ohio Beekeepers Association and was the person who said, we need to do this and let's get it done. So with that, we're going to go to our youth scholarship. Penelope, would you like to introduce what's going on for youth scholarship tonight?
Sure. We had two scholarship participants this year, Natasha Shemp and Gamal, who are both on here. They both had very unique experiences with their bees this year, which I'm sure they're going to explain to you. So it'll, and I'm sure they would welcome any advice you can give them. Gamal ended up having to move to Texas. So he up and moved his bees. So that was quite interesting experience for him, and I'm sure he's going to explain that. They both did a great job, and I'm very proud of what they've accomplished this year. So they both have presentations that Doug is going to start for you.
Any particular order, Penelope?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So this is Natasha's.
My experience presentation. Hi, my name is Natasha and I'm currently in 8th grade. I first decided I wanted to try to get the COBA Bee Scholarship because I've always had a fascination with bees and wanted to help save the bees in any way I could. I filled out the application form, sent it in, and waited until the interview. When it was time for the interview, I was very excited and nervous. I answered the questions and waited until I got a phone call that I honestly hadn't expected getting. I got the scholarship. I was so excited to start a bee school and learn about the bees. I was excited to start bee school, and when I first arrived, I received a lot of books and I enjoyed reading them a lot. The first class was very interesting and it opened my eyes to all the things that there were know about beekeeping. It was so cool to go each Wednesday and learn about all the fun information there was to know. I was honestly sad when the last class came around. It was an amazing experience and I learned a lot from the amazing speakers. Due to COVID, we were not able to go to the bee yard, but I watched a great video on how to install a package of bees. On bee pickup day, we drove to Conrad and Hive and picked up my package of bees. I had gotten my hive and supplies prior and everything was ready at home. It was so cool to see all the bees buzzing inside the cage and I could hear them all the way home. Here is a picture of my bees in my cave, and we use these and put them in the hive later. installing my bees. The installation went well and was able to get all the bees in the hive, and the queen was greatly alive. And we shook the bees into the hive, and once the bees realized that the queen was in there, they all flew in, and I closed up and waited for like about 3 days, and then I went and checked in on it again, and they had settled in very nicely. During the month of April, as a summary, I had received my bees, installed them, and checked on them twice. Not a lot happened in the hive since it was still pretty early on, but so far the hive was off to a good start. During the month of May, the hive had a lot of new brood, comb, and honey, and I even added on the second box. The bees even stopped using the feeder, but I kept it on just in case. I saw bees around my yard and all the blossoms and clover, and they were starting to draw out all the comb very nicely, and these are some bees in the feeder. And this is a nice big thing. During the month of June, my hive was very full, and we added on the third box. Miss Missiony, my mentor, came to help me, and we realized that the second box had gotten so full in a matter of just like about 2 or 3 weeks that they had started building comb in between the frames because they needed more room. So we added on the third box and left it there, and we came back to check it. Well, I came back to check it in July. And these are another picture. This is a picture of a lot of nice capped honey with bees, and this is a nice completely covered with brood and pollen and a little bit of honey too. During July, the bees did pretty good. They filled all 3 boxes completely, and I added the super, but they didn't touch it, so I took off the excluder, but they still didn't go into it or show any interest at all, which is like weird. But I did take the road test, and thankfully there were no mites. And coming up to this month, there had been no mites every time I checked on the bees, which is very good. And here is a picture of frame of 95% capped honey, and it was the same on the other side. It was so nice to see that they were doing so good. During the August disaster struck, I made a gruesome discovery, and wax moths have destroyed the hive, and in the span of 2 weeks, they had done all this damage. Right here is a picture of what most of the frames looked like, if not worse, and that was about every single frame in the hive, which was so awful to see, and it was just terrible, and I closed it up not knowing what to do. And I contacted my mentor, and we decided that it was a little bit beyond saving, especially since it was getting a lot later in the season. And they destroyed basically all their honey and brood.
Oh.
So we decided just to clean it up and get all the cocoons out of it. And by the time I had discovered this, there was only about 100 bees left, which was awful to know that like it went ahead from like 15,000 all the way to just 100. And it was so weird because every time I had looked out of the hive from the outside, it had looked completely fine, but little did I know what was going on inside. And during September, after the discovery of the moths, I opened the hive up and one by one took out the frames and scraped up all the cocoons and worms. I set them aside, and later I melted all the wax left over and got a small amount. I gave all the worms and moths to my chickens, and they ate them right up. It was really hard because I felt like I had failed my bees and not being able to help. This is a picture of the bees at like around April and early May, where it was just really small. This is a picture of my wonderful chickens eating all my cocoons and larvae. It's nice to see because we got revenge. In conclusion, overall experience of being a beekeeper was amazing, and I'm so happy for the opportunity. Even though such a terrible thing happened, I'm going to keep striving to get better. I'm planning on getting new bees in the spring to hopefully have a successful hive. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Acknowledgements. I want to thank COBA so much for this amazing opportunity. I had lots of fun being a beekeeper, and this was an opportunity I'll never forget. Also, thank you, Ms. Missiony, for being my mentor and answering all my questions. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy.
Okay, great job, Natasha. All right, does anybody have any questions
Yay.
for her?
Is Natasha there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Natasha, it's Rod. Do you think I mean, that hive was doing great. Do you think that they could have swarmed and weakened the hive, which allowed the wax moths to come in and never produced a new
There
queen,
was
possibly?
there was one time when the bees started swarming outside of the hive, just on like middle of I think a June day.
That's it.
Right after like 10 minutes of doing that, they just flew right back in. But that was still like about a month and a half of before that happened. So I'm not really sure if that's
Yeah,
like
that
connected in any way.
I would bet that queen swarmed and you didn't see it, and they never raised a new queen, which weakened that hive and opened them up to the wax moths then, because you had a great hive going there.
So what would you do differently next year? What do you think you've learned from this that you'll do better next year?
I'd probably be more diligent on checking on them because there were some weeks when I did go like an extra day or two without checking. So I would try to like keep on schedule a little bit more. But other than that, I don't really know what I would do because I'm pretty sure I did most of the things right, at least. But I think just like something happened I wasn't aware of for the wax moths just to
Yeah.
swoop in and do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual for a new package of bees to swarm like that.
Yeah.
But clearly, you know, they were doing so well and bringing in so much honey that they probably got honey bound and decided we need to skedaddle. We don't have any room. I mean, one of the things that you could do next year is set out a swarm trap somewhere on the property just to have in case you're gone, so that you're at least giving them a chance to go into some place. Because if you don't have anything out, you know, we've all experienced that with a lot of us working, you know, we wouldn't be here for the bees to swarm. So if you have swarm traps out, you've at least got a chance to catch them. You know, they're probably going to go into the neighbor's house next door, but you at least have done what you could to try to capture them.
Yeah, when it came to the swarm, I wasn't very like diligent when it came to it because from what I had learned, like swarming was most of the time for like older hives.
Exactly.
So I wasn't really expecting it for like the first year I had them. So I was just kind of panicking, like, what am I gonna do? But then they basically, as like I saw, they went back to the hive. So I didn't really think much of it, but obviously there was more to it.
Yeah.
Natasha, the first 3 years, I lost my hive. I had to start over the first 3 years. Don't give up. Not only did I start over, but I thought I was doing something majorly wrong and took bee school again and again, and until finally Barry said, you know what's going on, why don't you just help me out rather than paying for bee school again? So it happens. I feel your pain, and it never happens the same. You learn every time, but in Ohio, you have a problem with bees dying, even if you got good hives. I really look forward to hearing how you do next year.
Yeah, as long as we're learning, and I mean, I'm still learning. We're all still learning. I bet Tess is still learning too. I mean, because every colony is different. So as long as, you know, we're taking little tidbits away to know how to do next year, then I think we're progressing.
Well, and that's one thing Barry would say. He would say, you're always learning. He said he was always learning, so there's always something new to learn about bees. So even though it's easy to get discouraged and upset about it, because I do all the time about my bees. You know, the fact that you've learned something from it is the most important thing.
And
And
Thank you.
Natasha, you're not the only one that has bees leave for first year bees. Out at the bee yard, the first year bee yard, we have many times, they've been in for 2 weeks and they disappear. They fly away, the whole group, or they start swarming about halfway through the season. So you are not unique, but welcome to the club.
yeah, now you're a beekeeper.
And I assume Penelope probably told you too, but there's definitely, you said you were worried about going a couple extra days. I think we can all attest to that. I think we can all, I've definitely gotten much more than a couple days before, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, this year was difficult with that very hot weather in the middle of summer. It was just ungodly out there in the bee yard.
Natasha,
Great job, Natasha.
thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yep,
Good
thank
job.
you.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Natasha. And we'll keep working on it. See what happens in the spring, okay? Okay,
Yes,
Gamal's
thank
turn.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to start the next presentation. Thanks, everybody.
Hello, I am Gamal Hussein, and this is my bee journey oversimplified. When I had finally figured out, after maybe a week or so of anticipation, I had actually won. I had a 1 in 4 chance of winning, and I did it. Celebrating with honey. When we had finally figured out, through all the anticipation, that I had won, we celebrated with all the cookies and crackers and biscuits and everything you could possibly imagine from a spoiled 10-year-old's excitement. Bee school. I learned quite a bit, including woodenware and tools, because the hive and stuff. Bee products. I remember that lesson quite clearly, the things that bees give us. One of the things in there was venom, which I did not expect to be on a list of good things ever. Varroa mites. Scary, as all tiny creatures usually are. And the people at the bee school are really nice and bring the yummiest of snacks. Legal stuff and registration for my apiary. It has been registered and I feel slightly proud of it. Bee stuff. I tried on the jacket, it was quite comfortable, so we bought that size. I have been informed that it was gifted. Thank you. This is my hive on the right when it was super cute and had the feeder and was only 1 block tall. The bees! leftmost picture, you can see worm things and some pollen. The worm things, as you all know, are little gross baby bees. Most insect babies are gross. That's just how it is. There are some drones in the picture on the right, and one of the workers actually has some pollen on the leg. One of the most important things about beekeeping is finding the queen. As you all know, it is a very difficult struggle finding the mother bee. Even though she is very distinct from her thousands of followers, twice as large and with a nice big blue in 2020 spot. A very noticeable big blue spot. But somehow, in this picture, it's getting scratched off, which makes it incredibly hard to find. More fun with bees. They were very interesting little pets. Are they pets? I think they're pets. Because I said so, now they're pets. Okay. So, as you can see, that is a little pollen saddlebag. This guy's having too much fun vomiting. There's some drawn out wax, and there's a little bit of pollen in the wax. Honey, honey, says the bear. Yeah. The Varroa checks. Hundreds died each and every single time. And we find absolutely no Varroa mites. So we were a strange mix of sad and happy. Moving to Texas. About 3 months ago, we moved to Texas. In the 3 big yellow boxes housed about 40,000, around 40,000 stinging, flying, tiny, honey-producing, black and white, flying, not black and white, black and yellow, tiny little stinging insects that produce honey. And they, unlike what they would normally do as a colony of bees, went over 1,000 miles. So technically, we just did something that is kind of like an invasive species kind of thing. Surprise from friendly neighbors. When we did move to Texas, about a month in, we decided to get a little mailbox. And then we painted it like a bee. But it had none of the accessories that it has in the photo. Because someone, to this day, we still don't know who. We haven't done a lot of detective work to figure it out, but whatever. Went and vandalized it by just straight up putting like bee antenna, headband, and little wing stuff. Questions? Any questions? Any?
I'm curious about, so you registered the hive in Ohio, but then had to move it. What's the registration process like in Texas?
I don't know. I didn't do it yet. We'll figure it out soon.
You have to register in Texas too.
Yeah, probably.
What
The
part of Texas?
Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas A&M.
Probably.
What part of Texas are you in now?
We're a little bit northeast of Dallas. Not too far from Oklahoma.
Okay.
So, not to scare you, but there's Africanized bees down there. So you want to make sure that you requeen yours every year with a known European honeybee.
Get a mentor from one of the bee clubs down here. We saw several bee clubs on the internet, and there's always beekeepers at the farmers market selling honey and bee products. They have questions for you. He has to visit the little boys' room. That's the worst time. Sorry. Any questions I can answer?
Well, I was wondering about the season because up here, we've been shut down for a couple months now. But further south where you are, when do the bees shut down there?
I think we still have just a couple weeks. They're still moving around quite a bit, but because it's warmer. But there was a couple of days it was pretty cold down here.
Is there food for them? Is flowers still growing?
There are some flowers, wildflowers around, but we're probably gonna put the feeder on for a little bit.
My suggestion is get the feeder on now. It's still warm enough for them easily to fill what they need, because if you're that close to Oklahoma, they get nasty winters also.
Okay.
And it's easier to have all those cells backfilled with sugar water.
Okay.
One part water.
It's actually pretty cold in Texas. Some of the days are cold. When we first moved in August, it was like 105, 102. I think it was like 115, wasn't it? No, it was 115. Maybe with the heating.
Texas gets really hot, but close to Oklahoma, they get really cold winters. It's similar to Western Kansas, of which I'm aware of. And blizzards come through there, not fun. Tie hives down so the wind can't take them.
Does anybody else have any questions for them?
Yeah, I do as well. Gamal, you mentioned you tried on the bee jacket or bee suit and you bought it. The protective gear is covered by the scholarship. I'm just wondering, were you reimbursed for that, or was that covered by the club?
That was covered for it, but I forgot that, so I revised it later, but for some reason it didn't get added in.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jamal. and make sure that you keep us informed of Ohio bees in Texas, okay?
We really want to thank you all. It was a great experience for me and for Gamal as well. It was really cool to see the bees flying around and open it up and see all the stuff that they had been doing while we were just living our lives. So thank you.
Good job. So Natasha and Gamal, keep taking pictures, keeping records of what you do so you can give your presentations in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay, and if any of you guys know of other kids who are interested in beekeeping, we have till January 6th to turn in applications. So you can get on the website and encourage them to fill those out and get them sent to me. Thanks.
Penelope, it's Rod. Have we got any?
What's the age limit on that?
Excuse me.
What, Gamal?
What's the age limit on that?
It's 9 to 18.
Okay. Penelope, have we gotten any applications in yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, very good. We'll start getting the word out.
I have to tell everybody that Penelope has taken over the scholarship the last 2 years and has done a fantastic job. Most people know that that has been my baby, and I have took and held on to that as long as I thought I could before passing it on. And I'm really proud of what Penelope's done. And I think everybody should give her a hand. It's really hard for the scholarship program right now because Lithopolis Honeyfest has been our big recruit area. This year, without any Lithopolis Honeyfest, without having our youth scholarship booth, without many things that COBA normally does and gets the word out, everybody needs to take and promote it everywhere on their own, because we don't have our normal outlets. All right, well,
That should be pretty easy because I'm the cool kid in my family.
all right. There's a whole bunch more awards we're going to pass out here now. I'm going to take a moment and let Winnie pass out some awards. Are you ready, Winnie?
I'm ready.
Okay, before she starts though, I want to talk about the bee yard there at OSU and give a little background on it. I remember being on the board when they talked about the bee yard. I was pretty much a newbie. I'd only been keeping bees for a couple of years when I got elected to the board. And the reason why I got elected to the board was because they wanted young people elected to the board. And I was 40 at the time, okay? So that was young people back then. And there was oh, Barb Bletcher, she was also one of the young people there too. And she worked at OSU right there at the B lab. And the OSU had moved all the bees up to Worcester to do all their bee projects. I don't know if they moved all the entomology or just the bees up there, but the ag department at OSU had just put in a nice peach orchard. That peach orchard that's right out there by the bee garden was put in by Celeste. And when entomology moved all the bees to Worcester, they contacted us being Central Ohio Beekeepers Association, into how to get bees out there. And there was some very wise people on the board who, when they talked to them about putting bees out there, said, well, we'd love to put bees out there, but in doing so, we need to be able to take care of them. So we'll need permanent access to them. And by the way, we do a bee school every year, and we need classrooms to put on a bee school. And so for the bee yard out there, COBA got classroom space and apiary space for teaching. And the people who were involved in this were, I want to go back to Cheryl Wadsmith was president at the time. But the people that were really talking were Barb and Dana Stallman. Now, it's been a work in progress. And what Winnie has done to it the last few years has made it a cookie cutter scenario where COBA can do a bee yard for beginning bee students anywhere with Winnie's notes. But Winnie can't do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. The bee yard takes coordination and volunteers. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Winnie, because this year has been way different. We have special volunteers this year, and I'll let Winnie talk to you about that. But that's a little history on the bee yard and how we got out at OSU. If they didn't need bees for the peaches, and we didn't have some nice silver-tongued people like Barb talking good about us, we would we wouldn't be there. But take it away, Winnie.
Thank you very much, Mike, for the history. Yes, to run the first year bee yard program takes lots of people, but because we were not at the bee yard this year with lots of the students from bee school, we got by on a skeleton crew. Normally we have 5 hives at the bee yard of different combinations, deep, medium, 5 frame, 8 frame, so that everyone has a chance to see what each kind work looks like, what the different things that happen during the year. We practice Varroa tests so that people can learn how to do it, so that they can feel comfortable doing it at home and alone. It's a place to bring questions. It always has been. It continues to be, although right now doing it virtually, we end up with things being taken to the Facebook page, OSU First Year B Yard, with people putting questions, people putting pictures or videos, so that we can share and ask questions and get people's responses. I want to say a special thank you to Matt Dunham, who has checked in on the Facebook page on a regular basis and answered questions so that I didn't have to worry about it. And other people who have done the same, I want to say thank you. Part of what, back in February, March, actually the latter part of March, when we realized we're not going to be able to have the usual format for First Year B Yard. I want to say thank you to Ann Hatter for suggesting, well, why don't you just do it virtually? Heavens, we've got the technology, why not use it? Because that was the big light bulb. Trying to figure out what to do with that, it's like, okay, 5 hives. If we've got 5 families from my mentor list, because it can't be an individual only. We need someone to, in my mind at that time, someone to video while someone is doing an inspection of the hive. So that's why I checked with people that were couples and asked for volunteers of the people I asked, and of those people that were couples, and I had 5 couple volunteers. Thank you, because part of the job was video, part of the job was load it up onto the OSU First Year B Yard Facebook page. And for some people, that was a problem because of internet connections not always being strong enough to do it in a timely manner. It would take forever to get it uploaded. I know Linda Stovrock was having trouble at times, but thank you for persevering, Linda. So we had 5 couples. And then also we've had out at the B Yard a flow hive for a number of years. The first one belonging to Katie and Travis Lucas. They had purchased it. They were part of the original group that helped fund the company. They decided to bring it out to the First Year B Yard to let all of us learn about it. And then they ultimately took it home, but the Flow Hive people provided us one with the stipulation that we continue to video and upload it to wherever they wanted it. So we did that. I mean, it's an easy way to get free equipment. All you had to do was provide the bees. So Travis and Katie have continued to do that. The one at the B Yard went home to them so they could keep track of it this summer, since OSU did not want us on the property. So that's what's been going on. So I would like to honor at this time. Unfortunately, because of COVID, supplies are not in the chain the way we would like. So what I was hoping to do tonight was to hold up a shirt, show you what it is. I will tell you what it is, but it won't be in for another week or 2, even though I ordered it in plenty of time. But the shirt suppliers couldn't get them to quality stitch equipment, or embroidery rather, in a timely manner. So it's a short sleeve yellow shirt, our usual golden, with black ink for the COBA logo on the front. And on the back, it says B Yard staff. Those of you that have been mentors for a while, you already have one in forest green, but now you get to have one in gold with black letters. So I'd like to honor Claudia and Bob Corey Bowers. Thank you so much for your videotaping and Bob's editing. Oh, I like the mask. You've done a great job. Actually, everyone's been doing a great job. Penelope and Jacob Mishney, they did a wonderful job. They ended up, their hive got kind of mean. So we requeened in, what was it, the end of August.
Kind of. We've had a couple of mean hives, but never anything like this one.
Yes.
It was really bad.
This is why, Gamal, we suggest that you requeen every year. You don't want to deal with what they were experiencing and that I have experienced one year, a couple of years ago, which I just let die. But it did calm down once it was requeened. Good, good, good.
Sorry, I had to leave.
Well, you have a good evening, Gamal. Thank you for being with us and thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. Linda and Scott Stoverock, even though Scott may not have been actually videoing, he was being supportive, that I know. So you both get shirts. Rod and Drew Pritchard, I would have liked to see your videos a little more often than what they were, but they were good. But thank you so much for sponsoring that, mentoring it. Matt and Jesse Dunham. Matt only wanted the bees. He provided all the other that it was needed for the equipment. And what he did, because they were in his own equipment, and you went in even over and above, you gave us other information, which I really appreciated as I would watch the videos. It was like a whole class, almost every time you videoed. And Jesse, I want to say thank you for excellent videoing. Tell her, pass it on.
Oh. Thank you. She says you're welcome. Thank you, Winnie.
You're welcome. And then finally, Travis and Katie Lucas for the Flow Hive. Even though it wasn't one of the 5 mentored hives of the bee yard, you did an excellent job with all that was done. Now, I know Katie wasn't out at the bee yard when you were, Travis, but because she's got little ones, you both got little ones to deal with, and we have to keep the kids safe. But excellent job and uploading and sharing what you were doing. So I want to say thank you to all of you. I look forward to all of you being willing to be part of the mentoring this coming year, 2021. And as soon as the shirts come in, I'll get them out to you. Any questions?
Thank you, Winnie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Winnie. I just want to echo, I thought Matt and Jesse's videos were so helpful. And even though I was a mentor with a hive, I learned so much from watching their videos. So thanks, it was a great job.
And of course, thank you again, Winnie, too, for even getting us going, figuring out where to when and where to get things and transferring things like the hive mover and all of that.
Yes, and if anybody needs to use the hive mover, it is not at OSU right now, but I know where it is and it can be done. And I want to say thank you to Matt for another thing you mentioned in one of the most recent videos, or maybe it was just as an aside on one of the posts, but how to prevent the jar lid on the jar feeder, like a canning jar, from getting stuck with the sugar. Putting the oil around the threads, it's like, why didn't I think of that years ago? It's just been so much of a problem.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome, Winnie. I only figured that out this year. I had one of those strap wrenches from AutoZone that I was using to get them off. And yeah, it took 5 years to figure that out.
Oh, I think I'm going to send it out to everybody in the newsletter for future reference. But
All right.
thank you.
I would like to thank everybody who mentored a hive, took the time to do the inspections, film them, upload them, answer questions. The fact that this year's bee yard even happened is amazing to me. And the fact that you guys did such a fantastic job is just super. And I want to thank you all for that. I want to thank Winnie for her weekly little newsletters out to all those people for the first year bee yard. I like I said, I remember when we didn't have a bee yard and we didn't have this opportunity. We have not only done something excellent, but we are turning a new page with all the information we're putting out there that will be out there forever. So thank you all.
You're welcome.
All right. We have more awards to give out. We have a special award this year we're giving out. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award. To my knowledge, we've never given this out before. And it is very near and dear to me because it's my mentor. And I can't say enough about these people. It's hard for me. It's been a hard year with COVID, with a lot going on. The Lifetime Achievement Award is for Barry and Carmen. And I'm going to turn it over to Rod. Rod's holding it up in his hands right now. I need a moment, so Rod, please take over.
Well, if I could, on behalf of the officers and trustees of the Central Ohio Beekeepers Association, I want to present this award to Tess in honor of Carmen and Barry Conrad for their lifetime of just being there for us. They've contributed a tremendous amount to the beekeeping community in Central Ohio, and we can't say enough about what they have done for us over the years. We were able to honor Barry recently with his induction into the Ohio Beekeepers Hall of Fame, and the board was very supportive of that. But we're just tremendously honored to be able to present this to Tess, and I hope that you can deliver this to your to Carmen and express our appreciation for everything that she's done for us as a beekeeping community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure, obviously, I hold it together a lot more than she does, but if it wasn't hard, she would be here.
Yeah, and I know it's very difficult for her, and all of this kind of coming all at once has been difficult for all of you. And but you know, this is our way of saying again, thank you for everything that that Barry and Carmen have done for all of us over the years. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. It's good to see Tess. I'm going to move on because it's better for me to move on. Little history. It's Carmen's Cookies that got me to come back to the meetings. Back 20 years ago, she did all the refreshments, you know, just like at most of the B schools. Everything she did from scratch. And 20 years ago, when she would do the refreshments, she'd have a little recipe card down there telling you how to make those honey cookies, how to make those honey bars.
I found those.
Oh, you found those?
I found a lot of sheets with recipes.
Oh, yes.
So
Oh,
Bill,
yes.
hang on to them.
I have them.
Newsletters. Share
Yeah.
the recipe.
Yeah. Carmen kept me coming back with them sweets, let me tell you. I thank the Lord that I got to know Barry and be friends with Barry and Carmen. And I'm glad to see that Tess is following in their footsteps. All right. The next award we got that we're going to do is Beekeeper of the Year Award. If I'd like all the beekeepers of the year that are watching this tonight to just pop in and say hi real quick. I'm going to turn this one over to Rod because Rod's a past Beekeeper of the Year, and Rod was kind enough to pick up the trophy so he can show it off again.
You know, Mike, thanks a lot. But before we do that, I don't believe that Jessie really exists. Matt, could you ask Jessie to come in? Because I don't believe she exists.
If she exists.
Yeah, where's she
Well,
at?
hang on.
Get her
We
butt
heard her
in here
say
for a minute.
thank you.
Sweetest kitty in the world.
Well, while he's getting it,
Might be in her pajamas, Rod.
Huh?
She'd be in her pajamas.
That's all right.
I'm not wearing pants.
Supposed to be here, I guess. I don't know.
I said, I want to see if you really, Jess, I want to see if you really.
Hello?
I'm here.
Can you hang on for just a second? Because I want to talk about Matt for a second, because I've known Matt's family for a long time. I know his aunt. We come out to the to Deer Creek to buy all of our jars. You know, I probably met him when he was a little kid, but didn't know it. You know, Matt Dunham has done just an absolutely outstanding job this year in particular as a mentor for the beehives and the hive that he had at his house. The two of you both together did a lot of work there, and I want to thank you for that. But Matt came on as kind of a green kid a few years ago, and we've really watched him grow as an individual. as a beekeeper, as a father. You know, he's put the kids first. He did a lot of work as a trustee for the board at one time. He did some fantastic things, especially working and learning about varroa mites and the treatments of varroa mite. But Matt's a good guy. He's one of the good guys out there. And I just want to present to Matt, on behalf of the board, the 2020 Beekeeper of the Year Award for all of his efforts that he's done for not only this past year, but other years as well. So Matt, congratulations on behalf of the board, the officers and trustees of the Central Ohio Beekeepers Association on your Beekeeper of the Year Award. So thank you very much, Matt. And we look forward to bringing this out and giving it to you.
Way to go, Matt.
Thank you.
I'll show that. Jesse, thank you for coming in and sharing in this award with Matt. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Matt.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Well, you've done a lot and you mean a lot to this organization. So thank you.
Speech. Oh,
I can't do those.
I'm gonna go back to putting the kids to bed.
You know, as many of you probably know, it runs in the family for Matt. Matt, is it your great-great-grandfather that's in the Hall of Fame?
Just one great.
One great, okay. So, I mean, it's truly a family tradition for Matt, and it's great to see somebody following in those footsteps of his grandfather, his uncles. Is your father in the business as well?
My dad and my uncles, they're in honey, but they didn't do any bees, so we skipped a generation on bees.
It's nice to see somebody actually in the bees again in the family.
Well, and I really, without COBA and the first year bee yard and that, I wouldn't be doing bees right now. I had to go get the same resources everyone else had to. So yeah, I mean, I remember I called COBA and Barry answered the phone. I didn't know I was going to get Barry, but I knew him. And so, yeah, he really got me started just kind of like everybody else. So yeah, I mean, the club's really been just invaluable for getting started and knowing who's got advice and where to get stuff. And yeah, it's been really meaningful for me to have that there and a lot of fun doing the bee yard and going to the meetings. So yeah, not this year, but other years. But yeah, thank you.
Well, you're most welcome.
thank you, Matt. It's been a privilege to watch you grow as beekeeper. I remember you were the first Varroa czar at the bee yard. You've always stepped up and helped out, and you truly deserve Beekeeper of the Year this year. And I can say that everybody thanks you for what you do. Thank you, Matt. All right, well, we got a few other awards to pass out. The next set is going to be the Lifetime Membership Awards. Now, these are rarely given out, and it's really hard to take and talk about the history of it because most of the people that got them before I was really involved. The last person that I know got it was Gertrude Razor, and she's no longer with us. Now, seeing how this is my last official meeting as president, I pushed through some membership awards. And I did it because I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of COBA. Everybody knows who's getting the awards. I posted that in the newsletter that came out. But why? Why did these people get these awards? Nina's probably wondering why she's getting an award again. Well, I remember when COBA was, I want to say, nomadic. When we were traveling from Grandview Heights Library to Upper Arlington Police Department and a few other places around to have a meeting that we didn't, because we were growing leaps and bounds at that time, because these were in the news for colony collapse disorder, and people were wanting to join COBA left and right. Our B schools went from 35 people a year to 135 people a year at our B schools. And when we were in that nomad time where we were going from place to place, Franklin Park Conservatory got a hold of us, and they were in the process of designing an apiary. And they had no idea what they wanted. But like everybody else, it was in the news that the bees were in trouble and they wanted to be part of the solution. And they contacted us about helping them design the apiary yard out there. Of course, the bright people that were on the board at the time took and said, this is a great opportunity, and we could be a great partnership because we need a meeting place. We need a home. And where most people don't realize that before Franklin Park, we really didn't have a home. Franklin Park is our home. That's where we go to see our friends and fellow beekeepers and have our meetings. Of course, right now that's not happening, but we still consider it our home. And Nina was very much involved with that process. And for the first couple of years, Franklin Park, we weren't even charged for the standard fee for rooms or meeting rooms or anything that all the other organizations had. We were getting them for free. And it was a couple years before that apiary yard even got built. And I go back to Cheryl Wattsmith. She was president at the time. And she had stepped down from president before the bee yard got built out there. I was talking to her last week and she goes, "Oh yeah, I remember something about that." But we were having meetings at Franklin Park Conservatory for a couple of years before that apiary yard got built, just because Franklin Park Conservatory wanted to be friends of the bees. And we know Franklin Park Conservatory is a little, they're in control of Franklin Park Conservatory. And after the apiary yard got built, Nina Bagley took care of the bees out there for Franklin Park Conservatory almost completely by herself for a couple of years, allowing us to take and solidify our hold as friends of Franklin Park Conservatory and our home. So this is why I nominated Nina for Lifetime Membership Award. So thank you, Nina. I talked earlier about Barb being one of the principal people involved, if not the most important person involved with us having access to OSU and our bee yard. The bee yard is, we've talked a lot about it. Bee yard is there because Barb Bletcher is a friend of Central Ohio Beekeepers Association. That's why I nominated Barb Bletcher for honorary lifetime membership.
I never do enough. I never feel like I do enough to earn anything.
And Sue Valentine Cooper is the third person I nominated for Lifetime Membership Award. Sue Valentine Cooper has been around for a long time. She has done a little bit of everything. She's been on the board. She's friends with Celeste, who was in charge of the peach orchard out at OSU. Sue Valentine Cooper was one of the key persons on talks about the pollination garden at OSU. She was in on some of the first meetings. She did a lot of the introductions. She was there before we really had started on that garden. And she paved the way for that garden in a lot of aspects. She, at the same time, she mowed the bee yard out there at OSU for the bee yard to have their classes every week for years. Sue Valentine Cooper has hidden in the shadows, but I want to bring her out into the light. And that's why I've nominated her for Lifetime Membership Award. And so I brought it to the board, and with board approval, we have granted 3 Lifetime Membership Awards this year. And they are very well deserved. That
Thank you.
so that's what the lifetime membership awards, why those names were in the newsletter and how we chose them and why. There's a very select group that has gotten that award. Barry and Carmen are members. Cheryl Wathsmith is a member. Gertrude was a member. Arnold Crabtree was a member. I'm sure there are a couple other I should remember right off the top of my head. Winnie, you got them in your hand? You want to name them off? Make it quick.
Bill Tolliver, Brian Raudebush. He's way back. Bob Call. Brian Raudebush was listed as a life. Mrs. David Kasdorf, Blaine Roush, and Paige Thrush. We've already mentioned Gertrude Razor. Those are what I know of as lifetime.
Mrs. Rothenbuehler was also a member of that select club.
Yes, and probably David Kasdorf too, but since it was just listed in the membership rolls as Mrs. David Kasdorf.
Well, I wanted to give a little history tonight while we were giving out awards. And I hope you all enjoyed it.
Excuse me, Mike. Can I have a second? I have one additional award. And this is one of those that's been a mentor of mine. And as you all know, this is Mike's last term as president. So on behalf of the board, we would like to present this plaque for Mike Adder as president for 2019 through 2020. Mike has been just a great friend of all of ours. He's been involved with beekeeping. As he said, he took the class enough to be able to start to teach it. He has been one of those individuals when Drew and I first got involved in beekeeping, was at the bee school, and gave me the best advice at all that I ever received in beekeeping, and that was to take a frame of honey out of that first year hive and enjoy it, to get a taste of it. And once you got a taste of it, you never look back. And so that's something that I have never, ever forgotten. And I have truly appreciated all of the hard work that Mike has put into this organization over the years. He's been an officer. He's been a trustee. He has been in and out, and just done any number of things. His work with the scholarship students has been just outstanding over the years, and really built that program up to stand on its own 2 feet. The Lithopolis Honey Festival, again, one of those things that has just been built up and runs as smooth as silk now when we are able to have one. So Mike, just really thank you very much on behalf of all of us as beekeepers in Central Ohio. And thank you for all of the work that you've done. We know you're not going away, that you're going to be there for us in the future. But for all of that hard work, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I knew he would always have ice cream at the Fun in the Bee Yard.
Always. Always.
Yeah, sometimes it might be melted, but he had it there.
It's not better melted.
Well, I want to thank you all because it's been my pleasure to be there. If it wasn't for all of you, I've had a fantastic board supporting me. There is a few people I forgot to thank that I've just remembered, and that is my board. My vice president was an excellent vice president this year, because when I wanted to run and scream and hide because COVID was causing us to do these virtual meetings and I didn't know what to do, he was the one that said, "Hey, let's talk to Doug." So I need to thank him. I need to thank Doug, because without Doug, there's a whole lot of this that wouldn't have happened. Will has been there, taking and helping me when I really needed to think from a different angle. Med has done a fantastic job and is a real shining star for COBA. He took it upon himself this year to be the person to get the extractor out to people who needed it. Claudia has took and really stepped up her game. She's taken and is in the process of looking at our bylaws and constitution and making COBA work. And she's been a good friend this whole time, letting me know how she felt. I could go on and on. My board has been fantastic. Penelope, I talked about her earlier, taking over scholarship. Tippy, who's been running the advanced B yard, is he was there last year on the board. None of Central Ohio Beekeepers Association could be doing what it's doing if it wasn't for all of you people. And I am very pleased that I got the award. I'm very pleased just to know you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you all for all that you've done. And
Thanks,
and
Mike.
I'm going to try to be to get added to the board this year with all of you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Winnie, for helping to run the Fund a Bee Yard. It's been really challenging this year.
Yeah,
Yes, it has.
yeah. Good job.
Okay.
Okay, good night and good job.
I've got a request. If anybody would like to be newsletter person, at least put it together. I'm willing to send it out. That's not the issue, but I'm wearing too many hats for COBA right now. And I think it's only fair to share the joy, and newsletter would be great to have someone take it over. Thank you. I will put it in a newsletter or give the information to whoever wants to volunteer.
Do I see Lori raising her hand there?
She's shaking her head no. But at any rate, pass the word and I'll put it in the newsletter to everybody. So.
Well, I am going to, if anybody else wants to take and speak now, or I'll close the meeting. Because I think we've had a wonderful meeting. I love y'all. It's been an hour and a half of me talking, and I'm done talking.
Where's the fried chicken and the fish? Where's our pie?
Just remember that we're a colony on our own and we take care of each other. So let's hope we all have a safe and healthy season and that we see everybody next year.
Out here, we're having a bonfire and burning our calendars.
And we don't sting each other.
Right.
We stay happy.
All right.
One
Got
other
your
thing,
Congratulations, everyone. Matt, congratulations. Mike. Everyone, thank you very much for a wonderful evening.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
happy holidays.
Thanksgiving, happy holidays.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Leave.